Oh baby, a control mirror. Yes, exactly. Okay, life totals are set up as well. That means we are ready to go. Let's switch back to the overhead view and get to it. Let's move the camera position a little bit to optimize content, actual content. There we go. That's a little better, right? Those graveyards might be pretty important as well. Slaughter games and a name. Elspeth post sideboard in game 2 and 3, and it's GG. Name Elspeth. I've got very bad news for you if you're naming Elspeth against Alexandre. He doesn't play any. And does he have slaughter games? And there is no slaughter games in the sideboard of the Grixis deck. Yes, blue-white without Elspeth and Grixis without slaughter games. Alex's win cons are Teferi, and a Jace Architect of Thought. Yes, those are his only main deck win conditions. No PLAs. Nope. So, he can only win with Planeswalkers. That's... On the other side, we have some slightly more aggressive. We have a Murderous Rider, a Kalitas, Nicol the Ravager, a Glory Bringer, and Scarab God. So I'm guessing Jan is the beatdown in this matchup. Opt is the first spell. I refuse to search that in Gatherer because this gives you 25,000 cards, amongst which every topter ever printed. It says scry one, draw one. And opt number 2. As we would say in Flanders, Iopteroplos. No love for your big serpent. Yes. Gentle Muffin, maybe you should think about what you're writing before you write it. Who doesn't know opt by now? Been in standard for like 3 years. Correct, but we want to be beginner friendly. Nope, no Torrential Gear Hulk either. His win cons are literally just 6 Planeswalkers. Alright, Jan. The Jace. Gets answered by a Absorb. And we actually have interaction. Baby Jace. Not tiny Jace, baby Jace. This is just like Return to Ravnica standard. Yeah. Okay, gentlemen. Baby Jace is henceforth known as Tiny Jace. 2-drop Jace. And thus starts the game of positioning, hand sculpting, card advantage, and the mind games. Like I said, Jan has the more proactive cards there. Is that a Blinding or a Kolaghan's Command? That's a Kolaghan's Command. Which gets spell pierced. So currently Alexandre very much fighting a war on the stack. Oh, spell pierce. Wait, didn't I type pierce? So I just typed spell, yeah. Spell pierce. And we get Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. as a first proactive play by Alexandre Darras. He has an Absorb in hand, can't cast it though. Ooh, Dreadbore as a main deck answer to the big Planeswalker. No interaction from Alexandre. Has 3 verdicts in hand, but gets a Narset, Parter of Veils as his play for this turn. Has Absorb mana up here. Gets picked out of Dig Through Time, Cast Out, or Spell Pierce. Goes for the Dig Through Time. Huge surprise to absolutely no one. Did the life gain happen from the Absorbs? It probably did. A lot of the times players are actually keeping life totals outside of the big indicator you have on the screen. Let's keep comments about the people out of the chat, please. This is not the time or the space for it. Alright. Now, Narset. Activated abilities are used up. But of course there's still that static ability that will stop Jan from drawing extra cards. He's been quite pinched on mana. Finally drew his 4th land here. As Alexandre is urging him to play faster. And it does seem like the first 3 life gain. Judge? In the feature match they missed the life gain of one of the counter spells that say counter gain 3, Absorb. The first one. So we updated a judge. Let's see if they can still change something. We might get a little intermezzo here. I think the judge just arrived. And they'll just verify what was the problem. So changing life totals is not something you can do as a partial fix. So unless life total pads have been updated, yeah, so like I said, the players have updated their personal life totals correctly, but they haven't kept track with the rest of it. Okay, so life totals have been updated, I think, but we're still on 23, and I thought there was 2. No, we only had 1 cast. The second Absorb is still in the graveyard. Is still in the hand. It wasn't cast yet. Okay. And in the meantime, we have a.
Had it written down correctly
on their own notepads. Yeah,
so
we saw.
Oh, and now it's. I will put it a little bit better.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Don't worry. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, and we are back. Life totals should be updated now. Let's hope that the result slips migrates away from the table. Okay. So Alexandre has a lot of anti-creature tools, and we know he has the dig through time in hand, so he's at this point probably looking for a safe window to cast that one. Jan has one of his dig through times of his own in hand, and will be firing off a Liliana the Last Hope to start off a more proactive interaction. Looking at the hand that Darras currently has would be a scary thing, but of course Jan doesn't know that half the cards in hand are actually creature removal. Has a Dreadboard to follow up to get rid of the Narset. But again, Alexandre has interaction. Responds with a activation of the Geier Sanctuary. Both players will draw a card and discard a card. Yeah, Dreadboard is still on the stack. Because currently Alexandre has 3 Supreme Verdicts and a Settle the Wreckage in hand. Has no interaction. Will respond again with Dig Through Time. And now needs to find the Spell Pierce. I don't think he's playing Pact. And the one of Spell Pierce, I think that one was put on the bottom already. At some point he had the choice of a Spell Pierce. He already cast one, and the second one is too deep in his library to be found. Okay, so Dreadboard gets rid of Narset, and we're back on an even playing field, except for the fact that Alexandre has access to almost twice as much mana as his opponent does. And those of you that are experienced control players will know that usually that means the player with the lands is winning, if it weren't for the fact that his hand is full of wrath effects, and currently this match isn't about the creatures. Dun dun dun. So time to get proactive. No, Scry 2 on the Castle Vantress sees both Big Teferi and Little Teferi. I have the feeling he will leave those as is. I think this happened. Did this happen in his own? Yeah, this happened in his own main phase. So trying to set up for the next turn. Has an Azorius Charm as the only card that is an actual piece of interaction with his opponent. And I can't see into Jan's hand. And he indeed played Liliana with 2 vents the last turn. But the vent could have also paid for the red on the Dreadboard. Yeah. No, there's a black one in the middle. So yes, technically that was a mistake. But one that actually made it worse for him. since he couldn't represent a negate or an essence scatter. Judge, another small mistake was made with mana, but it was actually bad for himself, and it's been passed, and it didn't influence the game, and it wasn't something you could fix.
I'll go and remind them to be careful.
Yes.
You want to drink something?
I'm okay, thank you. Okay, 3 fairy, Big Brother fairy. So I have to see if we can do something about the glare on the graveyard for the player on the right. Go to game 2. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad assessment of the current situation, but I'm guessing the players will want to play this out. So, untap from Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, leaves Alexandre with 5 cards, 5 mana available. I also think that if you want to win this match, that you should concede a game that is all but done. I'm not sitting in that seat, so if Jan thinks this game is still winnable, he should go for it. So, Thoughtseize. For Jan, gets to look at his opponent's hand and remove a card from it. Both of these important parts of the card. A lot of time people will focus on the fact that it takes away a card and forget how powerful having perfect information about what your opponent has in their hand can be. Now, what are you taking? If you treat the wrath effects as a single target removal, which they can be if you play around them correctly, then I think the Azorius Charm is the more versatile answer you can take away. But then again, that's also easy to play around at that point. Yep, takes a Supreme Verdict. Doesn't want to deal with having to find a win condition 5 times. Before one can actually be considered as a reasonable path to victory. Ravager. Makes your opponent discard a card. A land was discarded. The Castle Vantress finds another Teferi and a dig through time. And this Ravager will most likely prompt Alexandre to play one of his removal spells. You don't really want him to transform that. Takes up 3 fairy. So everything on Jan's side, anything on Alexandre's side can be played with Flash. Takes up the other Teferi. Draw a card, untap 2 lands at the beginning of your end step. And for 5 mana we will get a a Scry too. Cast out is pretty interesting. Don't think the charm is worth it. Yeah, exactly. Alexandre agrees, pushes it to the bottom. Alright, cool stream by the way. I always see the Belgic Magic shirts on Magic Fests. Well, now you know it doesn't only do t-shirts at Magic Fests, it's also a very nice community effort that, depending on the amount of time that their controllers have available, does some pretty cool stuff. They do practice sessions for Magic Fests as well, which have always been very nice and largest events in the community. Alexandre waits for the attack, then uses Teferi's capability of giving flash to all his spells to cast a Supreme Verdict in his opponent's turn, dispatching the Ravager. A Super Verdict. And that's... what is that? I'm not sure what Jan just put on the table. Ah, a Scarab God. Of course. Destroyer of formats. And again, Alexandre is forced to find an answer. Once the Bane of Gentry, true. He put cast out on top, yes. So, cast out, and something else was chosen for the dig through time pile. And Alexandre untaps. Tons of real estate. Jace, Architect was the second card. Oh, thank you. I couldn't see it. The screen I'm looking on is only a quarter of my computer screen. You guys have all the luxury. Architect of Thought, indeed, enters the battlefield. Seems underwhelming to me, but maybe I'm missing a part of it. Let's take the correct one. Return to Ravnica version. There we go. Looks so much better. Reveal the top 3. Oh yeah, the mini Factor Fiction. And then cast 2 cards. So it's a victory condition. The ultimate is a victory condition as well. Uses that. It gets 2 lands, 2 castles. Which is the other one? Castle Ardenvale. Castle Ardenvale. Can't understand why Jan is still playing. Yeah, well, maybe he already has a draw, so maybe he's on the XO2 plan. I don't think Alexandre minds playing this one out. Did he forget to plus his Architect of Thought here? Because he didn't activate... Ah no, it was this turn that he activated it for the minus, was it? Yeah, it was this turn. Okay, that explains. Alright, dig through time for Jan this time. Does Alexandre want to fight over this? No, we're still waiting for them to select which cards they are exiling for the delve. Jan is being extremely methodical for somebody who seems to be quite a bit behind. Okay, so absorb to counter the dig through time. And Jan scoops them up after being prompted by the judge to play a bit faster. Was there an elder spell involved? Dig through time. Ritual of Sud Colligan's command, Devil, Thought Erasure, Drown, Dreadbore, Thought Seed, Fatal Push. Nope, there wasn't a elder spell to look for. Now, post board, Jan can choose to be a lot more interactive, gets to the restless 2 negates, mystical disputes, and that's about it. Or he can, well, Sphinx of the Final Word, so to be a very interesting tool for him to put in to fight control. Alexandre, in the meantime, has 2 Lyra Dawnbringer he could bring in, but I don't see why he would try to sideboard in order to have a faster win if he won game 1 already. So it's doesn't have that many tools to fight against control decks in his deck. He has the 2 Mystical Disputes and some Dovin's Veto. No, 2 Mystical Disputes, 3 Dovin's Veto should be quite enough. Jan has some Duress, some Negates, Noxious Grasps, Anger of the Gods, Leyline of the Vault, Ashiok, Mystical Dispute, Kalitas, and Sphinx of the Final Word to his availability. For Alexandre, we have Aether Gust, Lyra, Fleece Ram, Nyx Fleece Ram, Mystical Disputes, Dovin's Veto, and Rest in Peace. So I think he's definitely bringing in those 5 cards, the 3 Dovin's Vetoes and the 2 Rest in Peace, but he might be underestimating just how creature heavy the threats are on the side of Jan Macharis, who has 3 Jace Vryn's Prodigies, Murderous Rider, Kalitas, 3 Nicobolas the Ravagers, 3 Glory Bringers, and 2 Scarab Gods. There's only 3 actual Planeswalkers in his deck. So Alexandre might be sideboarding in a deck that's a lot lighter on creature removal and run into a trap here. He might be putting himself in harm's way far more than he might be expecting to. 40 viewers again. We peaked on over 60. Where's the rest of you? Guess we're not interesting enough. He's replacing some perfect fits, it seems. That's his 2 Mystical Disputes coming in. Those are about the most obvious cards to board in. And I'm sort of assuming the Dovin's Vetoes also made it in. But we haven't seen that confirmed just yet. I think that was the background of Dovin's Veto I saw flashing by there. But looks like he already brought them in. So I lied. He has the Castle Ardenvale as an alternate win condition, making a few little 1/1 tokens to go for the kill. But that's slow. It's his only actual victory condition besides Architect of Thought getting a card that actually can deal damage to his opponent. That's pretty scary. Because Hero of Dominaria. Wait. What's Hero of Dominaria? Ah, no, Hero is the exile thing emblem, right? So it doesn't actually kill your opponent. So yeah, Castle Ardenvale making 1/1 tokens every turn and attacking with them, or Jace, Architect of Thought, nabbing a card from your opponent that can actually kill them, are the only two victory conditions in this deck. Wow. I think that's about as far as you can push it realistically. But we are off to game 2. Alexandre is 1 game up. And how much time is left in the round? We have about 12 minutes left in the round, so it seems unlikely that we'll see these players finish a second game. Let's start off by seeing them adjust the life totals back to 20. As we see Jan again active first with a Thought Erasure. Sees Dig Through Time, Absorb, Opt, Cast Out as the cards he can choose from, and decides to go for the Cast Out. But our players started later, they have 17 minutes. Not sure what we're waiting for here. Jan is writing down the cards in hand, it seems. Oh, it's not what I wanted to show. No, that's it. That's not it either. Go away. This is what we wanted to show. Players seem to be discussing the cards in hand. I have the feeling that Jan seems to be taking this match very slowly, despite being the one that really wants a game to finish. Alexandre do a mystical dispute. Jona, Surveil Missen is the... You chose not to mill, of is de GRV?
Ik denk dat dat gelijk scraai is.
Ja, hè? Dus gewoon you choose not to.
Ik heb gekeken en gezegd,
Ja.
ik heb niets gedaan.
Ja. So you get to miss Surveil, at which point we will assume that they left it on there. And we have a Narset Porter of Veils, and again we have Jan stuck on mana, it seems. Mystical Dispute gets disputed right back, okay. card, but very relevant. Narset finds a big brother in Hero of Dominaria. But now Alexandre is tapped out. Knows that Jan was stuck on 2 lands though. So I'm pretty sure at this point we can wrap up this match. How many lands does he play? 1, 5, 6, 7, 9, 12, 14, 15, 19, 24 lands in the Grixis deck. It's a little Teferi. So everything he plays has flash now. I find it interesting that he's choosing to go for this one instead of for Big Teferi and untapping, as it ends up with the same thing. But Big Teferi ticks up instead of down. Noxious Grasp to get rid of Teferi. Maybe that's his line of thinking. Wants to lure out the removal before he brings the big guy. Oh, Dovin's Veto. Now that makes playing Big Teferi... had the extra land as well. So Big Teferi leaves him with Dovin's Veto and... or Absorb up. But with your opponent on 2 lands, that seems irrelevant to a practical degree. Don't untap the Geier's Reach. That seems like a bad idea. You have Absorb in hand. Can't be worth it. Wow. So all in on the Dovin's Veto. And we have another follower. Welcome Meter666 on the longboard. Grab an oar and join the adventure. Same for George Mage and Simonos16. Welcome and thank you very much for your follow. I hope I'll be able to bring you much more interesting content in the future. But I do have to admit that this is pretty much the coolest thing I get to do coverage for, like, all the year. Let's see how this control matchup unravels. Nothing was played in Jan's turn, and we activated the Geier Reach Sanitarium. I don't think I would do that here, because all Jan really needs is lands, and it's both players, right? The Geier Reach. Each player draws a card, then discards, yeah. I don't think I would have risked it. 2 mana for a Drown in the Loch, which gets absorbed. To respond to little Teferi getting cast. And it will immediately just replace itself. After this, we will have the untap from Big Teferi, and again Alexandre will pass the turn with Dovin's Veto up against an opponent that has 2 lands available. At this point, I think a lot of people seem to want Jan to concede, first to save time and now to save mental energy. To be fair, I don't really see how he would be digging himself out of this, as we have the judge looking over the match as well. Yeah, the side view camera is a bit cheaper than the overview camera, as you might have noticed. I mean, the table could collapse. Alexandre could get hit by a meteor. There's so many options here. Okay, in the meantime, Alexandre, quite a methodical player. I don't think he actually minds playing this game of sculpt the perfect hand to never ever lose again. Also doesn't need to find a victory condition. He already won game 1, so drawing this game will just put him as the winner of the match anyway. Thoughtseize. Let's see just how crazy that hand is. I don't think that Alexandre will even entertain that notion. Maybe it's not that bad of an idea, just show him how much he's fighting against. And there we have the hand. Jan saves us from eternity, and Alexandre Darras wins round number 5 of the Belgian National Championships, the second round of Pioneer with his blue-white control deck. Okay, thank you very much everybody for watching. We'll go to a brief intermission before we go back to the next round. It shouldn't be too long since we're almost at the end of the round.